they're not getting money. They're trying to save their own lives. So regular people who are not crazy,
they're clueless.
Regular people who are not crazy are getting on their knees and begging for safety.
And that's because they're not having the kind of conversations that we're having. And that's my point. Because when people start having conversations like this, not battles, conversations, talking, give me your point. I want your point of view. Give me your point of view. I'll give you my point of view. Let's converse. Let's become stronger from that. That's lost. It's because of their propaganda campaign against him has made me do my own research. Of course, being on the show has helped a lot too. But I saw that. It made it blaringly obvious.
And it makes you angry.
And it obviously makes me angry.
I could change the odds for every bookmaker in the country. I'm serious. I had it down so cold that I was given paradise on earth. I was given one of the biggest.
You are not that person.
Yes, you seriously do not understand the past 10 years of my life. When I would go down to these parks, when I was in Occupy Wall Street,
it's to run the Tangiers by the only kind of guys that can actually get you that kind of money.
Smack talk me all day and night. Say, Tim Pool, all you do is complain about things. You're completely right. But at least I quit my job. When I worked for Disney and they said, lie to the public, I said, fuck you. And I told them, cut my contract off. And they said, no. Welcome to the golden handcuffs, Tim.
$100,000. I don't know all the details.
Matter of fact, nobody knew all the details. But it should have been perfect. I mean, he had me.
I mean, I already didn't like her from what I knew about her already. And it's just like, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. We're going to talk about it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to NeoUnrealist. Just a regular old school video today. Saw that Adam did a live stream yesterday. 6 hours, if you can believe it, though. I believe you'll only have to watch the first 2 hours to get what you're looking for. Not even. I believe he went into Super Chats before the 2 hour mark. But anyway, Adam Crigler has finally broken his silence on the events that led to his ouster, his firing by who he thought was a friend of his, Tim Pool. That in itself is a complicated question. I know, right? Tim Pool, it's complicated. But, yeah, this was a Adam Unplugged, if you will. Okay, so it was good to see him finally able to get this off his chest. I don't know why he felt now suddenly he is free to share his side of the story. Maybe it's because Lydia is no longer Sour Patch Lids is no longer. I don't believe she's part of the TimCast IRL show anymore. I haven't seen her there in a while. Though, admittedly, I don't watch as much as I used to. Obviously, got my own stuff going on with my own deal. But let's see. I guess to summarize the thing, obviously, the best sources from the horse's mouth. So I advise those of you who really want to know what happened, watch Adam's video. You'll find it very enlightening. But I was actually surprised. Well, not really. From what I don't know Adam personally. I've had, some interactions with him, obviously online. So you don't really know a person. I've never met in real life or whatever. I take Adam, I perceive him as an earnest person. So I tend to believe, for the most part, his side of the story. And I'm not surprised that the answer that he gave, it's not really, I don't think it reflects badly on him. I'll put it that way. For people that were wondering, could he have done something horrible? No, that doesn't appear to be the case. Or at least, he was accused of doing something, which we'll get into exactly what it was. But it seems, just from looking at it, maybe it might be a thing where, he said, because I seriously doubt Tim is ever going to publicly address this. It certainly hasn't been his style before to controversies involving him. He generally just doesn't tend to respond. But I could see from Adam's perspective, and the way he described it, it just feels natural to me. So I tend to err on the side of what he is saying is actually what happened. But I guess we could take a little clip of his little. We can go through a couple of the salient points. Maybe this is gonna be at random. I haven't prepared a script or I haven't wrote down a lot of notes really on this. Just gonna take it as I recall seeing it. It's best to let him start of how he met Tim, because you got to remember essentially what this was. They're just a couple of guys who met. They hit it off. I'll just let Adam describe how they met.
It's a sad story. It's not something that I'm happy about. I considered Tim a friend. Yes, past tense. I don't anymore. We don't talk.
Let me stop there. Adam says that, but I don't think it's that simple. I'm not sure he's even resolved 100% his feelings for Tim. I mean, he's able to move on, and I think if he goes the rest of his life and never sees Tim Pool again, Adam will be fine. But just keep that in mind that it's not as simple as he just said there.
Barely talked before we started the show. It wasn't like we were buddies. I want to let this go. I want to put this in the past. I want to finally move forward. And I feel like I've reached a point in my life and in my show where the people that follow me, the diehards, I know you guys are watching right now, they're gonna watch me. They'll be there on Monday for Bay Staff Monday with the crew. I feel like I'm starting to grow again, which feels really good. And the people that are following me for me, which is nice.
I agree there. If you're someone who watches Adam, the Crigler show, it's been now 2 years. August of 2020, he was fired by Tim. So we're coming up on, it's now over 2 years he's been gone. So if you're watching him now, you're an Adam Crigler fan if you're watching him still.
I owe a lot to Tim. And don't think that I don't know that. Don't think that I
spent 15 years of my career trying to create.
So keep in mind while we sit through this that to his credit, Adam doesn't spend a video bashing Tim. Yes, he criticizes him for certain things, certain decisions that he made, but this is not a unload, Tim is a demon, Tim is a really bad guy video. No, he doesn't do that. This is not him poisoning. I mean, obviously there's the well has been poisoned, but here he's not pouring further poison beyond the story that he's telling. I'm sure Tim's not happy that Adam is speaking about this. But yeah, put it this way: you watch the video, you're not sitting there going beyond the things that he's talking about, specific acts. No, Tim didn't. He's not going to jail or anything like that. And I don't think. Let's put it this way: Tim is not beyond redemption. I don't think even in Adam's eyes. I think in a perfect world, yes, Adam would like their relationship to be better than it is, but circumstances just don't allow it. Let's let Adam go on.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'm very grateful for all of you, and I'm grateful for Tim. For the things that he helped me build. And I will never forget that. I'm not doing this video out of spite, which people love to think that I'm coming from a place of anger also.
And to a large part, I would agree that he doesn't seem to be doing this for malicious reasons, out of hate. But it's clear that there are emotions involved. Adams has maybe unresolved emotions about this. Who could blame him? So I don't want to say he's totally a dispassionate observer here, just matter-of-factly telling his story. I'm sure he has his own reasons, but yeah, it does not seem like this is a malicious thing on his part.
Which is not me. Those people clearly don't know who I am. I have more of a persona on Twitter than anywhere else. When I'm live, when I'm sitting here talking to you. The people who watch my show, you guys know that I'm just sitting here talking about my view on things. Twitter, I'm a little more spicy, and I enjoy it. I really like being spicy on Twitter. I have a lot
Twitter being the shit show that it is. But let me try to get to where he starts the story.
But I'm going to talk about it because I want you to understand where my head was at and why certain things happened the way they did. And for that, I have to open up about some stuff, and it's a tough conversation that I had a hard time with myself. For those who've saw my journey, you guys know I've become rather red-pilled over the past couple years.
This is not... It's a little bit further in, maybe.
An apartment next door to me.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. But that's how we started playing, right? That's how we met. We started playing, and one thing led to another.
All right, so basically the part I skipped over was they met in a Magic the Gathering shop. At the time, they were both avid players of Magic the Gathering.
Was looking for an apartment in New York at the time, and then got an apartment next door to me, like the next week. Yeah, I think he was working at Vice News at the time. And we'd play ever so often. He would come and go. Ferguson, I think he was doing that. He was doing Occupy. And then one day, he got hired by Fusion. He got a huge check and was all excited about it, and which was cool. He got his dream job at the time. And then we stopped talking for a little while. I don't remember. I think
it's interesting that here's Adam, someone who knew Tim through all the stages of his various evolutions before he became what he is now. So it's interesting, a retrospective from someone who knew Tim way back when.
Somewhere. And he, in fact, moved to Miami. Now, at this point, I was... where was I living? I think I was actually coming and going from Sweden, because at this time, my wife and I had met. She was my girlfriend at the time. And he invited me to do a show, something along the lines of TimCast IRL. And I asked Nisha if she wanted to move to Miami with me to do this show, and she said, okay. So we moved to Miami to this.
All right, so let me stop it there, as looks like they're going to come up to another ad, so I'll let that play. So keep in mind, Adam, this is now the first time, I think this is an important subplot of this video, is that I've now come to the conclusion that Adam married a saint. Okay? He has uprooted this woman at least 2 times that I'm aware that he describes in this video, so that he could pursue some business venture with Tim Pool. I don't know if you are watching this, if you have a wife. Think about this. Imagine your own wife. If 2 times in quick succession, in a span of a few years, you basically ask her if she's willing to totally uproot her life so that you could chase some dream, which has which is not 100%, because at no time does Tim make Adam any rock solid promises in any of this, and she goes, hey, okay. And remember, she wasn't just some housewife. According to Adam, she had her own stuff going on. It's not like she was just sitting there with nothing to do, no job or friends to speak of. No, both times Adam asked her, she backed his play and basically uprooted her life and went with him to follow these dreams with Tim Pool. So the first time Tim asked him, the fusion thing didn't pan out. And he then describes a situation which I wasn't aware of, is that when the stuff with fusion fell apart, remember the infamous Tim Pool rant of the golden handcuffs, which Adam does refer to here. What we learn is that the golden handcuff speech had ramifications for Adam too. Yes, the golden handcuffs speech. Apparently, Adam was living with Tim at the time in Miami, but went over to Sweden with his wife. If you don't know his wife, who he calls Nisha, she's from Sweden. She's Swedish. She's a Swedish citizen. So he went over to Sweden, I guess, on one of his trips with her, an extended trip, and Tim apparently moved out of the Miami house when he was done, and I guess he moved back up north. I think after Tim lived in New York, for a time he moved over up to I think in Hoboken, New Jersey or something like that. But anyway, the bottom line is Tim didn't bother to call Adam and let him know, oh, by the way, Adam, I'm moving. You have to find a new living situation. No, Adam found out when he came back to the United States to find the Miami house empty without electricity, and just to learn he didn't realize he was homeless. So Adam basically squatted at the house for a few days while he made arrangements to get to where his stuff was. Apparently, Adam lived. I think he mentioned that he lived in Arizona, really, at the time, with his wife. So their stuff was still in Arizona. They hadn't really moved it yet. So Adam had to make new arrangements, and he found out he basically found out he was homeless when he showed up, and Tim wasn't there. So that's the kind of, you get the idea that he and Tim, they were friends enough, good enough friends where, living together was not a problem. You think about that. You have friends, and then if you're going to live with somebody, even for a short time, they better be a good friend. But apparently not good enough friends where he didn't get a call to let him know, by the way, I'm moving out. You're not going to have a place to live when you get back to the United States. That's kind of like it seems like their relationship's been a bit, quote unquote, complicated from the start. I wonder if we can get to that part where he refers to that part of his life.
But it feels like
sit through this. 3, 2, 1.
Very quickly devolved, and I blame the lockdowns mostly, because
okay, so that's another thing. He, I think, has hit on it 100%. The biggest problem of what led to the downfall, I think, of Adam's time at TimCast and let's just face it, the show, because I think maybe Tim wouldn't see it this way. I think Tim lost when he fired Adam as well, because I know Tim has success, okay? I just think that had Adam not been fired, the way things went down, his show would be even bigger today. Adam says that Tim has looks up to Joe Rogan. That's his North Star. I tend to agree. I think that's who Tim tries to, who ultimately Tim wants to be, or someone a close facsimile thereof. And I think he'd have been a lot closer to that had he just kept on his journey with Adam. But that's neither here nor there. That's my opinion and speculation. So let's try to find the part where he's coming back from Sweden.
I don't know. I just that really kind of the definition of cringe. I feel like that red pill journey that I was on, basically saying to fruition. So a few years go by, I CEO, and they're all excited about it. We're telling them about what our plans are. It wasn't exactly, I don't remember exactly what we proposed to Fusion, but they were really excited about it. They were like, yeah, this is great. A couple months went by. Tim and I were skating actually, and I broke my tailbone about a month later. Man, that sucked. Anyway, the show never panned out. It never worked. Well, they just never got the funding for it. But around the same time, Tim was kind of, you actually might have remembered his speech, his rant on YouTube, where this was when I was still on TimCast IRL.
Here we go.
Talking about golden handcuffs.
The golden handcuff speech. Which, by the way, here it is. For those of you who are not aware of it, this is Tim's golden handcuff speech when he declared, this was, I forgot when in the show. This was, Adam was obviously still on the show. And Tim was decrying that the people weren't willing to take a stand, that they were afraid to lose their jobs, what have you. And Tim is claiming here that he put his job on the line, and he told off the people that were trying to make him dance to their tune and push their narrative. Here's Tim saying he told them to fuck off.
Nowhere to be found. So we have these conversations, and what happens? I'm under threat from being banned every single day. I just had a video today labeled as hate speech, and when I asked them to overturn it, they said, not this one. You're on thin ice. But don't worry, Tim, you mostly play by the rules. We're okay with what you say. So how long until they cut my channel off? And they've been doing it over and over again for the past several years, and people are nowhere to be found. Now, of course, they go online and they'll post things, but then when it comes to their real life job, when it comes to the woke mob coming for them, they just bend the knee and they beg, please, woke lunatics, just don't hurt me and I'll leave you alone. I'll let you have whatever you want, because I don't care about the future for my children. I don't care about where this country goes. I don't care about all the statues they've just destroyed. And then what happens? The Republicans, nowhere to be found.
You're absolutely right.
I have no confidence in any of these people to do anything. I can sit here all day and guess what? Smack talk me all day and night. Say, Tim Pool, all you do is complain about things. You're completely right. But at least I quit my job. When I worked for Disney and they said, lie to the public, I said, fuck you. And I told them, cut my contract off. And they said, no. Welcome to the golden handcuffs, Tim. You got one more year under lock and key.
Just the golden handcuffs.
And then I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do what you want. And then finally it came to August and I said, bye-bye. I'm going to go do my own thing. And guess what? It worked. So
maybe that's the problem. Maybe every August is the danger zone for Tim. He makes radical life choices every August. I don't know. Maybe we've discovered a pattern here. But anyway, so let's say here, that's the famous golden handcuff speech that Adam is referring to. Let's hear the consequences it had for him.
Some people who remember the TimCast IRL show might remember the golden handcuff speech. It was a great rant, and I kind of coaxed it out of him because I piss him off. Let's be honest. I aggravate the piss out of him. And he's told me as such, actually. I recently reread some of our correspondence via Facebook around that time. The TimCast IRL time. But the golden handcuffs, when they wouldn't let him speak his mind, when they wouldn't let him talk about certain things because they wanted a specific narrative to be put forward. Interesting. Yeah. So anyway, that was that time that he was referring to. Basically, quitting that job and moving out. Now, I was in Sweden at the time when he moved out, and he didn't tell me. And I got back to Miami to an empty house with no electricity. In the summertime.
Good job, Tim.
Brutal.
Good
so
friend.
And I was by myself. Nisha was still in Sweden. So I had to pack a box truck and I stayed there for a few days. I don't know if you've ever been in Miami in August with no air conditioning. It sucks. But anyway, I drove across the country. So I had moved my wife and our life. We moved our shit all the way to Miami. And then we left. Because it didn't come to fruition. Now, that's not really Tim's fault. I don't blame him for that. That was Fusion and, the TV studios, whatever.
So you can see there, again, like I said, this is not Adam throwing Tim under the bus. Doesn't blame Tim for, the Fusion thing not panning out. Is what it is. Adam doesn't seem to hold a grudge about that, and I believe him. He doesn't sound like he holds a grudge. He doesn't seem to be emotional about that. But let's go forward. So keep that in mind, that there's a history here where Adam is kind of... It's not just the one time. It was 2 times where he, tried to accommodate Tim to do a show with him. So let's fast forward to we'll try to find a part where he starts talking about what the hell happened that he got yeeted.
He told me I was wrong. And Lydia chimed in, yeah, he is the best.
Seems fine to me.
Again with
exactly.
with the ads.
How big is the ocean?
Best skater in the world.
Okay, so here he's describing something else. What he says, right? It's never been said before, or maybe it hasn't been by Adam, or maybe he has and they just never noticed. But here he's going to explicitly say what everyone probably suspects to be true. That Lydia just adored Tim and did whatever she, whatever she could to draw his attention and spend time with him. And Adam describes, these pathetic skate sessions where clearly Lydia is not a skater. And it just did the way he describes it, it was like pitifully transparent what she was doing, and describing her efforts to like connect with Tim on skating. And just, I don't know, it's best if he describes it.
Lydia, what the fuck do you know about skateboarding? I'm sorry,
Oh yeah, keep in mind that he's saying that she was claiming that she knew about skating. Keep in mind that Adam is a former pro skater, like literally a sponsor. He was a sponsored skater, guys. So here she's making claims about who's the best skater in the world. He had a disagreement with Tim about who the best skater in the world was, and Lydia's chiming in saying, "Oh yeah, he's the best skater in the world." And Adam's like, "What the hell do you know about skating?" I actually, of the 2 of them, he was the one that was a sponsored skater.
You don't know anything about skateboarding. What? And I thought that was hilarious because she didn't. I mean, of the 3 of us, I was the only one who happened to be a pro skater at one point in his life. I wasn't at the time. I'm no longer. But I was a pro skater. I rode for Arbor Skateboards and Bustin' Boards in New York before I got onto the Arbor team. And skating's an art form. You can't tell me one person's the best skater in the world, and then when I disagree, you instantly just say I'm wrong. That's laughable. And I laughed. I did. I thought it was hilarious. I probably should have called Lydia out. I didn't. I just laughed in my head because I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. But those skate sessions that Tim and I started having, I started to notice something. Lydia would always be around. She would hover around Tim everywhere. Everywhere. All the time. There was never a point where Tim was not in the room with Lydia. I'm sorry, let me say that again. There was never a point where Lydia was not in the room with Tim, because she would follow him around all the time, like nonstop. It was so annoying because that like mimicry that she did was ever present. I lived with her and I still fail to see her personality because all she did was mimic Tim. And man, was it annoying.
All right. So it seems like at first Adam, didn't have any problems with Lydia, but you could see as time went on, she began to get on his nerves. He thought it was weird how she was very clingy with Tim and mimicking and echoing everything he said. That's how Adam describes the situation. So he's kind of laying the foundation here. I think you know where he's going with it.
And that's when let me show you a little layout of the house.
All right, so let me expound further. Also remember, this was the time. This is happening, I believe, in 2020, early 2020 is where the time frame he's talking about here. This was COVID time. Remember, after March 2020, we were all basically locked in our houses for the next 6 months, a year, and 6 months, whatever the time period was, depending on what state you lived in. Most of us spent 2020 basically staying home, not really going anywhere unless you had to. People voluntarily, in many cases, just cutting down the number of times they had to leave the house. Remember that term, essential workers, only essential workers. So you had people that their businesses were closed down. People couldn't go to work. You had the remote, work from home craze started. So you had a lot of remote work. So here you had these people. They were locked in this house together. And remember, they're doing a show basically every day, except the weekends. So there is no work-home life separation for these people. They live together all day. They work together all day. They're always on top of each other. And this is, I think, also a source of the problem. Is that had there been a normal situation where, let's say, Adam had been going to work, did the show, and then when the show was over, he went home to his wife, Nisha, probably none of this happens. That's just my opinion from the way he describes it. None of this happens because he would be able to just leave work at work. That drama wouldn't impact him any way whatsoever. Whatever he's talking about here wouldn't be his business, and I'm of the opinion he probably wouldn't have cared, and that would have been it. So I think the genesis of the problem was that they were all locked in that house together for such a long period of time with really no time away from each other.
I would walk up the stairs. I would turn left. I would go down the hallway, and there was 2 doors. There's my room. There's Tim's room, right? Tim always had his door open. He'd be sitting on the bed, beanie-less. That's right. He didn't always wear his beanie, all right, guys? And no, he doesn't care about being bald. He doesn't give a shit. Tim's learned the golden rule of being on the internet.
Think it's interesting that Adam, at multiple points in this video, goes out of his way to defend Tim. Which is interesting for someone he said at the beginning is no longer his friend, doesn't consider him a friend anymore. Remember what I said about that I observed? It's complicated, and I made the pun about Tim Pool's one of his Poolisms. I think this also is a sign of how complicated it is. But yeah, this is one of the times in the video where Adam goes out of his way to defend Tim. This being the beanie issue, and Tim being bald.
You don't care what other people say. You just do the work. I learned that from him. Others could learn from him too.
It's time.
All right, so keep in mind that if you really think about it,
that work ethic.
Adam could have burned Tim with this video. I mean, I guess he kind of does, and he's technically putting some of his business out there. But this could have been a lot worse if Adam wanted to. But let's let him tell the story. Keep telling the story.
But that weird, hovering Lydia suddenly made sense when I saw her in the bed with him. And it was...
So keep in mind, he's already described the layout. His room, where he and his wife slept, was across the hall from Tim. Their doors were across the hall from each other. So he witnessed Lydia in Tim's bedroom.
I was like, what the fuck? Okay, this is weird. Now, I didn't see them doing anything. They were just...
All right, so keep in mind, he's saying he didn't catch them in flagrante, so to speak, the old term. He's just saying she was in there. That's the extent of what Adam says. He doesn't say further than that. It's clear he's implying he believes such and such was happening, but he doesn't say. He never says he never saw it to the degree where he could say 100% certain.
That became a thing, and it all made sense. And then I learned that Lydia was married. And I was married at this time. I still am. I have a absolutely wonderful wife and partner who I would never cheat on. I've been cheated on before. I think it's horrible. And I have zero respect for people that do that. And I lost a lot of respect for Lydia.
Okay, so we already know Adam wasn't too crazy about Lydia, with the clingy stuff with Tim, saying she knew about skating, saying that she knew things that she didn't really know about, or at least to his perception. So this really seems to be the point where his relationship with Lydia really took a dive, because now infidelity seems to be a really bad trigger for Adam, and seeing someone basically be unfaithful seems to have soured his opinion of Lydia beyond repair at that point, where, okay, he has to work with her, but now it's clear that they're not going to be friends from this point on.
I didn't lose all my respect for her, but I lost a lot of my respect for her. I guess I really didn't have too much to begin with, but that's still something that changed a lot for me. I had to sit across from her every single day and listen to her lie and mimic Tim, and it was kind of nauseating. Yeah. So that what is that, like April, May? It was starting to get a little nicer outside. And Tim told me about his girlfriend, Allison.
All right, so yeah, keeping up with the situation, I don't know what Lydia's marital status at the time, because here we have a video from Cast Castle of Lydia getting married to someone else that works with Tim, the chief technology officer, Andy. Now, was Lydia married to someone else before she married Andy? Because according to them, to this video, she got married this year. Was she married to someone else? I don't know. Clearly, that if Adam's right about that, then yeah, so that had to be maybe the situation. But here's Lydia. She got married right before one of the shows. Downstairs, or not downstairs, there was a wedding photo. But they celebrated downstairs right before one of the TimCasts. So apparently she didn't take a day off that day. So here's what that looked like.
Lydia and I got married.
There you go. Woo! Watch out, shit. Tim.
That was
Looks like an assault on the boss at this point. What the hell?
The enthusiasm was unbridled.
Woo! Thank you, Nick. That was very sweet of you. You made a nice little mess.
I like the.
Who's gonna drink my glass?
Oh, drink it.
I like the Starbucks. They went to Starbucks.
Like Starbucks? Ah, thanks, Tim.
They went to Starbucks earlier.
We did go to Starbucks.
Did you know? It's kind of lost.
So, yeah, that's the thing. So keep that in mind as Adam describes the situation further.
Who's very lovely, by the way. And that she was coming to live in the house.
So Tim's
like
got a
3 weeks.
girlfriend coming in, Allison.
And I was like, wait a minute. Hold up. Your girlfriend is going to move in here now. With Lydia and you, and like, so wait. And I actually pulled him aside. And I said, Tim, what the hell? This isn't going to work. Like, this is unfair on Allison. This is unfair on Lydia. Because Lydia clearly loved him. She was infatuated with him. She would literally do anything that he asked her to do. And, I didn't think it was fair. I was like, this is going to hurt.
It may sound like it, but I don't think it seems here like... you may start to think that is Adam describing Tim running some kind of like next Vim cult? No, Adam explicitly says he's not doing that, but it's best if he explains it himself.
Somebody, right? And Tim was like, this is no, it's fine. It's fine. Which shocked me because that's a freaking disaster waiting to happen. I didn't know what to expect.
We're blessed to be a blessing to others in need, like the kids all around the world.
I hadn't met Allison yet, so I didn't know who she was. Tim told me nice things about her for a couple months, kind of talking about her, that she was coming. And I don't know. I just, that really kind of, it threw me off. It threw me off.
Anyway,
I don't know. There's a few things
it's not important the details of what was going on. So Adam suspects that clearly he suspects that Lydia and Tim had a thing, at least on one occasion. I suspect he thinks it was more than just once. Whatever. That is not the reason why Adam was kicked off the show. He's just describing. I think the purpose of this is to describe why what Lydia did triggered him, the thing that did get him kicked off the show. So here you have, in his mind, Lydia being very high and mighty, very, very self-righteous about certain things that upset Adam. And Adam's describing that, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So I'm trying to get to the situation that got Adam fired.
Was to be a host, to read things out loud. I sucked at it when I first started 2 years ago. Jeez, it's been 2 years. What the fuck? Like, have you no respect at all? This fucking bitch Lydia. I'm sorry, I can't stand her. The audacity for her to do what she did after Allison moved in. That was all the respect that I had left went out the window, because Allison went on vacation a couple weeks after she got there. I think she was visiting family in Chicago or something. And Lydia fucking gets in Tim's bed and waits for him. And to Tim's credit, he fucking kicked her out. Get out of my room. What are you doing in my room? Respect. And I heard she said, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And it's just what the fuck? Have you no respect at all? Obviously she doesn't. And that was the worst of it, right? Because that hovering that she did with Tim, once Allison got in the house, it didn't stop. You'd think that you would respect Tim and his girlfriend to maybe watch a movie together or maybe do something together, just them, and let them do it. But no, she was always there. And let me remind you, this was during COVID still. Everything was still locked down. We couldn't go do anything. So the only place that we had to be was in that house. Tim and I would go skating, and Allison, she could skate a little bit. So she would pad up and stuff, and Tim was teaching her some stuff. It was rather cute, actually. They're a cute couple. I'll be honest. They're a cute couple together. And then Lydia comes out and gets on a skateboard. Can you show me some stuff, Tim? I was oh my God.
I died
Lydia,
laughing at that point.
Seriously?
When I was watching this live last night, guys.
The first time I had seen Tim and Allison without her there was that day. And she comes out with a skateboard. It was just the definition of cringe. My goodness. So that added to my with Lydia, right? So my red pilling was in full effect.
I believe
at
this
point.
is where he goes into
I'm doing my research.
the situation.
I'm reading about cultural issues, political issues. I didn't want to sit on a desk with Tim and be told I'm wrong without being able to back up what I was saying, my opinions. So I started doing that very well. And in doing that, I became a formidable co-host to Tim, as many of you may remember.
All right. I will confirm what Adam says here. When he started, quite frankly, he wasn't very good. He had potential, but like everybody, you got to start, you got to walk before you can run. He eventually caught up. He got up to speed on politics, the culture wars. His opinions began to change the more he learned. So by that summer, Adam was a good co-host and was given as good as he got. He wasn't yes manning Tim. He had strong opinions, and from time to time he'd share them, much to the chagrin of Tim Pool. Let's let Adam go on.
I know a lot of people don't even know that I was on that show, and that's fine. That's not what defines me. A lot of people do remember that because it was a really great show, really good dynamic between the two of us. But in doing that, I started changing some of my views on things. And one of those things is abortion. Now, this is something that took me a long time to get over.
All right, so as I was saying, Adam changed some of his views. One of them was abortion. And guys,
give myself for.
We know how contentious an issue. Abortion is not an easy issue for people personally. People have very strong feelings on it, no matter which side you're on, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, most common labels that people put on it, or if you're somewhere in between and you're not sure. A lot of people are confused. Some people try to put up a Chinese wall. I feel this way personally, but for other people, that's how a lot of people deal with it. Who wants to think about this issue? A lot of people. But anyway, long story short, Adam's going to describe how he was previously pro-choice and became a pro-life person, and something Lydia did hurt Adam personally. And this was the thing that basically was the issue that got him canned.
Because I had gone through an abortion, and it was very difficult for me. I was asked what I wanted to do, and I said, I'll support whatever choice you want to make. And she chose to have an abortion.
All right, so Adam is describing how this issue affected him personally. It's not an academic discussion. For him, it is a choice that, he had to make at some point in his life. A choice which he clearly regrets now. I want to make that clear. He indicates he clearly regrets what happened, the choice that he made, or the choice that was made, with his consultation. Anyway, let him. This is his story to tell, guys.
And there's not a part of me that doesn't think back, and I don't want to say regret, but
no, I said regret, but
maybe I could have said yes, and maybe I'm in direct. I have the direct responsibility for maybe murdering one of my children. Now I'm happily married. I love my wife very much, and I am very much looking forward to being a father.
Just look how hard this is to talk about today for Adam. All right, this is clearly a difficult subject for him, something that for him would be impossible to ignore if somebody went there with him. It's 2022 and he still has difficulty talking about it.
And going through this red pilling process, basically like really understanding life is a lot more challenging and intricate than being a child, more than you would ever understand as a ignorant youth. Well, I mean, it's still, and it will always affect me. It'll always be something that I'll remember. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. And I've forgiven myself. I've forgiven myself for that. And being able to forgive myself is the only way I would have ever been able to tell this story. Because this is kind of an important part of the story. Because Lydia, being the high and mighty righteous slut that she is, is very vocal online about how righteous she is. And, you know, we followed it.
To support what Adam's saying, I did a little research, and he's right. This is a topic which Lydia does opine on, publicly and quite loudly, as he put it. Here's a video that Lydia did just a year ago on Chrissie Mayr's channel. Here's the title: Lydia Smith of Tim Pool's TimCast IRL open up about the abortion debate. And in this video, she exactly as Adam describes, Lydia doesn't pull any punches with how she feels on, or at least what she said, how she says she feels on the abortion debate. Ironically, acting with Chrissie Mayr the opposite way how Adam describes how he acted with her, but we'll let Adam tell the story.
Each other on Twitter, and I would see her high and mighty posts about how virtuous she is and how you know, pro-life she is and all this stuff, and it triggered the fucking shit out of me because I knew the kind of person she was. The sinful, disrespectful person that didn't give a shit about anyone but herself and Tim. Clearly, she cared about Tim.
And I guess it all came to a head the day before he got fired, and he's going to talk about it.
That last episode that I was on, well, I mean, it was multiple. It was like a week, basically. Abortion was a hot topic issue, right? We were talking about it a lot. It was in the political conversation, as it always is. And, you know, she, of course, was acting her like I mentioned. And I was getting annoyed by it, you know, and I talked to Nish about it, and I was like, I have to say something. Like, I have to, like, you know, I want to be like, hey, you don't understand, like, what it's like for people who may have been in that situation. You know, maybe I was trying to convince myself that because I still had this, it was like locked in a box, right? And I feel like that red pill journey that I was on kind of was unlocking this box, and I was having to face some things that I had locked in there. And this was definitely one of them. It's very, very much something that I'll never forget. I have to live with. So on that last episode, Tim said that he was pro-choice. And the way that I sat, I was here, and Tim was here, and Lydia was there. So Lydia was facing me 100% of the time. So I would always see her face, and I would always see her, like, nodding yes to every single thing that Tim ever said. And this is the first time I ever remembered her disapproving of what he said. And she looked right at me with this, like, disapproving scowl when he said I'm pro-life, or that he's pro-life, right? And she she shook her head at me with like the most disapproving glare. And I'm like, fuck you. Don't fucking look at me with that. Oh, like I was so pissed. And at the end of that show, I said something. I was like, what the fuck? Like you know, you gotta, you don't understand. Like, blah, blah. I don't remember exactly what I said because I was really mad. And I said, like, I had an abortion. Like, you're fucking calling me a murderer. You know, and Tim, of course, like, put on his best white knight outfit. And I was like, you know, you can't talk to her like that. And I'm like, I have to talk about this. Like, I have to get this off my chest. I have to talk about the things that are bothering me. I have to be live with this woman every day. Like, I can't not talk about this shit. And that was like basically the end, right, of that interaction. And I left the room. And Nisha and I think we went out for dinner or something. And I didn't see Tim. I didn't see Lydia. And I woke up the next day and I had a message from Tim. And he said, yo, you can't snap at Lydia like that. Which I found that really fucking rich. Because he would yell at Lydia so loudly for fucking up the thumbnails, fucking up the timing, fucking up the algorithm of his baby. I mean, everyone in the house could hear this shit. And this was going on for months. Like, he would fucking scream at her. It was scary. Like, he would get so angry and yell and scream at her for fucking up. And it's like, that shit's abusive on both sides. Like, I feel like they were being abusive to each other. And it was fucked up. But then he came to me and said, you can't yell at her like that. You can't yell at her about her fucking up her job. And I was like, I've never yelled at her for fucking up her job. He's like, yeah, you don't do it tactfully. I'm like, every single time she's ever fucked up, this is true. I would call her out. The very second the show ended, I said, hey, you really need to make sure when I'm talking, you move the button to me. Or when you hit the button to change the camera to me, because she's the one who was doing that. Or when Tim starts talking, you really need to make sure it's not on my face, just like sitting there. Like, I was very aware of that, to the point where I had Tim get me my own Stream Deck so I could force the camera to change. That's how often she fucked up that shit. And it's like, Tim yelled at her 10 times. I can't even count how many times he screamed at her. Like, it was not even yelling, it was screaming. Like, it didn't matter where you are in the house. You heard him fucking blow up on Lydia. I don't know why she stayed. Probably because she was in love with him. But so that morning when he sent that to me, I was like, Tim, I need to be able to work this shit out.
All right, so here's Adam. He apparently got into an argument with Lydia about the abortion stuff. Tim, here's the thing. I didn't play it. Adam alluded to this. I'm not even sure if he's really making a connection between it. And apparently, shortly before this happened, Tim approached Adam basically about money. Yes, the root of all evil, guys, money. Indicating that Tim thought Adam was getting too big a cut from the show. Basically, remember, this is all speculation on my part. It seems like either Tim himself or somebody was in his ear that Adam was getting way too much of a cut. Now, it wasn't a 50-50 split. They weren't partners. Adam was clearly getting the lesser of the amount from, think about it, the TimCast IRL channel produces a lot of revenue in terms of super chats and what have you, and ad revenue. Maybe Tim didn't think the show, because remember, Tim had a different vision for the show when he started. He wanted a show where he basically wanted to be Joe Rogan, where he'd have guests on and talk. Because of COVID, he couldn't do that. So his show for the first year or so, that Adam was there was, for the most part, them. It basically him, Adam, and Lydia bullshitting. Basically reading the news and talking about it. I don't know. I guess Tim didn't think that wouldn't do so well, so he obviously thought he'd have to give Adam a bigger cut, obviously, for him to survive. Remember, he's a married man at this point. He's not a single guy living on ramen noodles. He has to a wife to provide for. And I think the show blew up so big that whatever cut Adam was getting was a lot more money than Tim had intended to pay Adam. And maybe that maybe could have given a reason, because I really am not sure this is 100% what really happened between them, was that he got mad that Adam yelled at Lydia over abortion. Or so I don't know. It's just me trying to speculate, because is it really telling me that it was that simple? That was it? The end of their collaboration was because Adam snapped at Lydia once? No, when the way Adam described the money issue, it led me to suspect that maybe Tim was looking for a way to maybe push Adam out the door, because Adam, and rightfully so. I don't blame him. Was like, okay, I'm not adjusting my my percentage of the show because all of a sudden it's taken off. What? I don't get to partake in the success that I had a role in. Anyway, let's. We're coming up to the end here. I don't want to play the whole video. Obviously, this is Adam's video. Better you go see it, the whole story from his perspective. But let's see how that situation ended up.
Vent and get to a resolution if I'm going to work with somebody. I can't do this, and he's, it was like a conversation that he was coming from a place of Adam wants to get rid of Lydia, and I was coming from a place of I don't give a shit if Lydia does suck as a producer, and I didn't choose her to be my producer for this show. And you did meet her on Instagram in DMs when she slid into your DMs, which is true, by the way. It would have been nice if you actually hired a professional producer, because we had a really good quality show. That would have been nice to have an actual producer, not a nurse from Bumblefuck America somewhere. I don't know. I don't even know where she's from. And I said, if you're going to push this issue, I'm happy to walk away. Now, my issue was being able to resolve my problems.
All right. I think that's
Lydia.
maybe what the problem was. I think Tim interpreted that as I'm happy to walk away. I think Tim interpreted it as an ultimatum. I think even Adam describes that situation as Tim calling it an ultimatum. That may be where the disagreement between them lies. Adam claims he wasn't making an ultimatum. Maybe Tim believed he was, or maybe Tim cynically seized on it to say that he had been. Don't know. I don't know these men. I've never met them, so I'm only speculating here.
Now, Tim saw that and said, that's an ultimatum. Get rid of Lydia or get rid of me. Which is not what I said. It's not where my head was at. Granted, I would have happily had him get rid of Lydia in a fucking heartbeat. Absolutely. Well, he responded with, well, then we're done. The show's done. Show's over. I was like, seriously? That's it? And there's a long conversation. And I won't get into the details of it because that's between Tim and I. But that was it. That was what I saw, and I was like, okay. So Nisha and I, we went for a drive, and we went to a diner. We were talking about it, and I was like, man, maybe I did blow up. Maybe I am getting triggered because of myself and not Lydia. And I'm the one making the big deal out of it. And to this day, maybe that's true. Maybe I was dealing with inner issues. But
All right, so,
I had nowhere to go.
I mean, we could end it here. The whole deal with Adam at that point was he went back to Tim. He made an attempt to apologize to Lydia. Tim didn't accept it. Apparently Tim accused him that this was a false apology. Tim had basically already decided Adam was off the show, and this personally insulted Adam at this point because basically Tim is calling him a liar. And the rest is history. The show didn't go on that night. The tweet went out. I'm no longer going to be on the TimCast IRL show. Lydia put out the tweet. Technical difficulties. Remember that? That ridiculous tweet. It's still worth seeing this video. There's more. It doesn't end there, guys. There's more to the story. Because remember, Adam didn't move out the house right away. And he'll go into the reasons why he didn't. I'm satisfied with the explanation he gave because it actually is a reasonable explanation. But the long story short is his friendship with Tim did not end even with that, believe it or not. Or at least he didn't seem to close the book off at that point. He just was in a strange place with Tim where he and Tim, while they weren't interacting as much as they did, Tim was still acting friendly towards him. He was still living there. He helped him make his own show. As you remember, it started as TimCast. It is now the Crigler Show. He's changed the name. And yeah, so they had that weird dynamic going on. And then, we get to the present day, where you'll hear if you watch the video, Adam says for his part, he wishes that at some point in the future he could return. He'd like to still be friends with Tim. Clearly, if Lydia's not there, that issue is out of the picture. But he says he doesn't anticipate that happening. It's not likely. Clearly, he's moved on. He's moved to Sweden. The studio where he's doing his show from is in his house in Sweden. Although he does indicate that he would like to purchase another house in the United States. His goal, ultimately, he says, is to have 2 homes so he can go back and forth. But the bottom line is, he is not, while he says they're not currently friends, he has not slammed the door 100%. He's essentially, I think, putting the ball in Tim's court. If he ever wants to interact or engage with him again. And I think also he set up basically the conditions under, at least he seemed to imply the conditions under which that would happen. He's not going to go there to be basically a toady, a peon, or a simp. He'd rather be his own man, obviously. Anyway, that's my take on it. I think it's not as simple as that. I don't buy that Adam blowing up at Lydia was the sum total. I suspect it had a little bit to do with, because you'll have to watch the video to see. I don't want to go and open that can of worms because it'd just be me speculating. But I do think maybe Tim, he saw the show reaching a certain level of success. Maybe he thought after COVID happened, he could start bringing on guests. I don't think Tim expected the show to blow up in that format with just him and Adam, and it blew up, and then suddenly Adam's cut of the show was a lot more than he expected to be paying out. Anyway, watch the video. It's at the Adam Crigler's channel, the Crigler Show, and you'll get all the details in terms of what happened after that. The long journey. It really was. It's only like half the story, to the point where he gets fired. But that's going to be it for this NeoUnrealist. Look, if you want to help the channel, do me a favor. Hit like for this video. Leave a comment below. Mash down that subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel. Click on the notification bell next to it. Put it on the all setting to keep up with newer content. Now, if you want to contribute directly to the channel, want to toss your hard-earned dollars into the tip jar, follow links below to Patreon, Subscribe Star, PayPal. And if you watch this on BitChute when it uploads there later, you can just click on the green tip pledge button on the video player. But most importantly, guys, thanks for watching.